It's Wednesday, it's April 26, 2023. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of the symbolism of my most recent purchase. I bought a book of life to read the theorems that are being passed around as conscious awareness amongst humans on this planet during my life frame. And then to extrapolate and interpolate and then orient myself within the story that they've been published, that they have published, or that they've been propagating, however. Um, and then I think back to my more serious issues of during this life that I've been in this area, in these series of rooms, and what education did I have to rely on to keep myself safe. I'm realizing that there really was none. While the kids in elementary school were at the country club and everything was being done for them, um, I had a very different story while amongst them. My mom actually went to the food store. My mom actually purchased groceries. My mom actually made dinner. My mom actually had work with my father during the day. My mom actually did my laundry. My mom actually went clothes shopping. My mom had a real important function within my life, and I only knew Linda and Lou. That was it. Or in Ireland, I realized they call him Lau. Um, so there's that. So it's God, the Celtic god Lau, if Lou is whatever in the way that it's pronounced. So for that one storyline with the Brahma machines and the destruction of the universe, the balance for me is Celtic god Lau, or Lu. So I'm just going back to this, but the other kids got to go to country club and they did whatever they did there. I don't know, wasn't like a part of it. But while they were there, I would go to school with them and then I would go home and just wait. And my house, Lewis had installed mirrors everywhere in the house. It was 1980s. It was like mirror crazy. But interdimensionally and spatially, I would sit and I would watch how light refracts. I mean, I would study and just be really observant of the difference in like multi-dimension and how it worked, because I had tons of time just sitting by myself in a house waiting for school the next day. Um, so there was that. And then um, there was this, um, there was no talks of travel. When I traveled at, in the time that I was in Cold Spring Harbor, I would travel, or the whaling town, I would travel with adults. And so there was no thoughts of travel plans, travel booking. Like there was no, I mean, there was no research skills being developed necessarily that I knew of, like how to research things. Like that was not talked of. Um, so then eventually I went through three different levels of high school, or types of high school. None of them prepared me for how to research before traveling. Like there was no talks of like it's not safe to travel to some areas. I mean, I was in college at Long Island University and they put up a flyer for something called a spring break, and you just called the number and you booked the travel. I went with a friend that I had known the longest, but not on my campus. She went to a different college, and we wound up but we were childhood friends. We wound up going. I wasn't making any friends in this new college, and I was in a dorm where like there was rarely. I had a security guard, but there was rarely any other life in the hallways or on the floor. Like it was a quiet. I mean, I had a 4.0. There was no parties, there was no anything in the dorm. Um so we call this travel company with the college, and we go to something called a spring break, which I had never heard of. I just assumed it was the same as from high school. You get a week off from school and you go. I didn't realize that there was like other people have this. I've seen what they portray in movies and on television, and that was not our version of whatever. And for this spring break, we went to Jamaica, in the island Jamaica. Um, and I remember walking onto the beach with Maria, and there were these coupons of like when and where food was available or whatever. Um, and so we went, and there was a group of gentlemen or guys that showed up, all from states colleges, once at the beginning of the trip. And then I blacked out. And I asked Maria about it once, and she said she knows that we were there. She doesn't know what happened afterwards. I was like, do you remember how we got back to our room? And she's like, no. And I'm like, right, me neither. Um, so there's that happened. But it's not the only time I've been in a group setting where I've blacked out. Again, like when an attack like that happens, you don't see it coming. I mean, like, again, I've watched movies like they're skilled professionals. If they're going to take you down, you just go out, and then you wake up, and it's like, again, I explain it like being on a game preserve, like an animal getting tagged with some kind of dart or whatever, and then you just wake up. So that happened. So I'm watching this version of Trump, with this civil trial from this woman. They opened up some thing to do some kind of lawsuit. I wouldn't even know first steps. I wouldn't know how to research it. I mean, like, that's how vulnerable. But like, there was never any discussion about going even the following year to Mexico, like as if there may be danger involved in travel. No discussion of it. Never a national security advisor, dispatch. Like the world here used to work, or in family context, used to work by invitation. Or I've also had assignments where somebody within a whatever would come and check in on me. But for them, they were assigned my location, and they would come, and there would be some kind of activity. One taught me archery, one taught me how to swim, then I had another swimming coach. But those were assignments that they had, but I don't know who they are. And then, so I'm watching this, and I see that they opened up this ability to file lawsuits. Again, I don't even know how their court system works and how any of this works. There's been like no teachings of it. It's just been a series of rooms and things going horribly wrong several times, but then waking up and not even knowing where to go. So here's
News that
this.
we are following this afternoon. Jury selection is underway here in New York in the civil trial accusing former President Donald Trump of rape and defamation. Former columnist E. Jean Carroll is claiming Trump raped her in a dressing room back in the 90s. The former president denies those accusations. Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller reports from Lower Manhattan.
And this is a civil case, so no jail time is possible. Trump may not even show up, but the details that come out could be incredibly damaging. Not one, but three accusers are set to take the stand.
Ms. Carroll, how do you feel today?
E. Jean Carroll smiled, but said nothing as she walked into federal court in Manhattan this morning, where cameras are not allowed. Outside, demonstrators spoke on her behalf. We believe E. Jean Carroll. Moments later, Trump's lawyer Joe Tacopina and his team arrived without the former president, who is not expected to testify. But anything's possible. Carroll claims Trump raped her in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room in the mid-90s. The statute of limitations for criminal charges has long expired. But last year, New York enacted the Adult Survivors Act, which gave accusers of old sex assault cases a one-year window to file lawsuits against their alleged attackers. She's suing for battery and defamation after Trump claimed the assault never happened and that the two had never even met.
What kind of lawyer even processes this? And how do you get access to your attack file? I mean, somebody knows I was attacked, but how do I even gain access to my own records? And then it goes to more insidious details. After I had the problem with this meeting with the crazy donkey, and then my life being completely like disrupted by this 1976 person. It then goes into years later. I got a lead through Century 21 for a house for Anna Tiafrio to sell the house in Centereach. And that was it. And I sold the house and moving on. But then after that, there was a blacksmith. Like, I was invited to go there, not thinking of anything, just whatever. And I went into the building, and then that's where the guy with the black cross on his hand was, which I didn't, again, I don't even know to look for these things or what the significance of these things are. And that's the 1975 problem. So I'm watching this. It comes on Story Television, and I'm like, oh my God, he's got that on his hand. And again, it's somebody I would never pick. Like, I mean, it just gets worse and worse. And so now I'm watching this, and I'm going to put this part up because I'm listening to the words that they use, like the professionals use that know this stuff, in like private investigators and whoever works this level of detail at like the FBI or whatever they are. So this is on something called Story Television, and um, it's it makes reference to this black cross, which this person has on his hand, which I refer to as the blacksmith at this point, because I don't know what else to refer to him as. Otherwise, I refer to him as the year, which is 1975. Um,
The letter would be signed with an imprint of a black hand.
The gangs become known as the Black Hand.
so now, if there's no letter involved, which would be really nifty to say, oh, you arrived with a letter, like, abuser, just saying, that's moving into my house, not contributing at all, and bringing a element that I really don't need around my kids or myself, and I don't know really how to get you away and back out into the world. Like I don't need toilet paper stuck to my shoe from your public house. Um but this is the symbol he's got on his right hand. Um and I'm never explained to me again, as if I'm going to get the truth out of him. And that's why I say he's just an insult to my intelligence every time he speaks.
What you've got here is a black hand letter. If you open it up, on this letter, you would see that there are faces. These are the faces of the family, and you've got stilettos being drawn going into their skulls. Dirty bastard, damn pig, we will burn the face of your daughter. You must bring the money, otherwise we will make you weep bitter tears, and you will be responsible for the destruction of your family. Our vendetta is about to begin. That's very chilling, you know.
Same time that this kid arrives, my dad's working with some guy named Lord. And he looks like he could be a family member of Eric Adams, just so, like the mayor of New York City during this period of time. Um, just so everyone's real clear on, like, how do I get out of this situation? Like, how do I back out of this and get myself to somewhere I belong in, rather than wasting any more time being abused by the system, its participants, and now its perpetuation of they already did really horrible, nasty things to me. And now it's trying to self-preserve by defamating my character in some way. So how do I, when I'm just like trying to survive this, so how do I back out of this carefully? I mean, I bought myself a book of life trying to figure out, but they don't mention stuff like that in publication. And I wouldn't even know the first thing about research based on the series of rooms and the opportunity that was allotted me. But the fact that it came by way of Anna is really concerning. Again, I've got this other piece of I'm a clock with symmetry. So there is this like uber importance at certain levels of humanity. But again, I don't really know how to traverse this. It's frightening as all to come upon and discover this. It's absolutely frightening. Um, and then I'm reading more theorem in protected copyright for this area with Purple Emperor and Fairy Wars. And in here, it mentions something about decapitation, which goes back to like an Ichabod Crane, and then trying to put the head back on and put the intelligence back together. Which again, to me, like really is frightening about some kind of strategy. Is what it reads to me like a textbook for some strategist in some alternate fashion from the way that the story is actually ruseled. I mean, it's a puzzle, but if I'm looking at it from my own perspective, to me, it looks like a rusel. it said that was a mistake, entirely a mistake, a ghastly mistake. Primitive to carry out the operations. And then it says mountain clouded yellow. Very powerful psychic surgeon. Psychic surgeon. So is that like what time enforcement? Because I'm the incarnate of time. I have symmetrical time. That's more of like a NASA educated reference, or like, I don't know, perhaps Air Force reference. They don't really teach it at the series of rooms that I've been in, but I've been stuck in a series of rooms so long to self-explain being incarnate biologically, being able to self-replicate, and being able to germinate and gestate, or gestate a clock system on a very basic scale. Has been really easy for me to transform that from a theorem into an action and a reality, because I've completed that, if we're talking tasks. Where I'm having a problem is with this continuation of keeping me from like human compatible partner. I watched this other piece about one of the it says Life Today with James Robison, and it's his episode 40. And he's got a wife, Betty, and recall their shift to mission outreaches and servant-based disciples. And he speaks of his wife like he's so blessed to have her for 60 years. Great. Okay, so that basic human necessity and function has been withheld, and some really disgusting game has been like put together. And when I look back and question the nature of my reality, and I have RH sensitivity, like the 76 and the 75 should never have even been in vicinity to even start a relationship. But again, more things, just like the travel to Jamaica. Nobody's warning that like there's people in Jamaica that might have some alternate purpose, and maybe Jamaica's not a good place to travel for someone like me. Nobody ever mentioned that. I just went because they put the flyer in the college, and who would think that going to Jamaica might be dangerous? I didn't. I mean, are the Jamaicans here in New York dangerous? I mean, or do they like the leisure and travel? And I mean, it really gets to be hard to explain this to nobody ever, because nobody's asking. So how do I ever get out of this trap and actually enjoy a level of life that I deserve?
All communication and knock out the lights. Don't let him. You say, James, how do we offset it? We move together like a family. The church becomes an answer to Jesus' prayer in John 17, where we become one with the Father and one another.
And I hate to tell him, guess what, guy that I've never met on the television? John has never been good to me. John, 1988 came. I thought I was protected in this Red Cross. I thought that I had a family member named Nicholas. I thought that life was going to be amazing, that I was going to have these special children, and that he already picked me when we were like, what, somewhere 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. And we were going to get married. He was going to find me when the time was right. That was his exact words. And I was just so grateful that I didn't have to go through life worrying about who I was going to marry, that he already knew, and he knew how to find me. That was like the only reason why I came to be human, from wherever spiritually we are before life is created, My life was set. I was excited. And then never happened. It happened that he came and arrived. It's just him coming back for me in the right sequence. Never actually effectuated. And I don't know why. But John 1988 happened. I showed the pin the other day. And then staying in that through confirmation with the Red Cross. And then in 1995-96, going to a different St. John preparatory at the Crescent Moon. Like, it was the Crescent Street that the school was on. That John did nothing for me in the sense of I still, with that diploma from St. John's, have been unable to get a career to self-sustain myself while I'm waiting for the personal assignment to come back for me, if that's even logically possible. So, like, again, this St. John, whose plan was St. John? Because St. John seems to have hurt me. And here's the really sick detail. After the problem with Jason 1976, where did Peter, his father, send us? To St. Thomas. And then we went to St. John's for a submarine ride.
Natural unity. And we prevail against the gates of hell. That's the journey we're on. I'm watching it happen. Get engaged. Get involved. Stand against the enemy. It's not a partisan viewpoint. It's not a party viewpoint. It's not a denominational viewpoint. It's his will being done on his earth through his family, through his body, his church, with the one head, Jesus. And we can do that. That's what we're becoming. Father, I thank you for the relationship with this beautiful girl. 60 years of marriage and 60 years of ministry. And for all the viewers and all the people who pray with us and for us, and all the people who will help us put your arms around the world you gave your son to redeem. Heal our land. Heal your church. Let us be an answer to the prayer of Jesus in John 17. And let us inspire the church to be adorned in your glory for your kingdom purpose. In Jesus' name. Will you say right now, Lord, I lose my life to find it in your kingdom purpose. One aspect of his kingdom purpose is to notice the least of these. Those are the only ones he very clearly and specifically said, these are the sheep. They do it to the least of these. They feed them, they give them water, they visit them in their prison, their bondage. And when you do it to them, you're doing it to me, Jesus said. You're the sheep. Would you help us right now? Feed starving children. Would you become the miracle they long for? Their moms pray for them, but they desperately need. Would you help us continue to put God's loving arms around the overlooked, the unnoticed, and the least of these? Watch closely, and then you become the kingdom impact person, the miracle that is desperately needed in somebody's life. That's his kingdom purpose through you. Make it happen.
So that's like the message that like some whatever is out there. Again, my dad says he's an atheist. And as an adult, when I spell out the word atheist, it reads at heist. And I think Oceans 11, 12, all the way up to whatever number they did, which I haven't seen any of them. It's all about a robbery. Is like this theorem of a heist is around some kind of a robbery. So I associate word association between those two words based on the theorem and the visual storyboard that Hollywood's put out there, which again, I'm not sure which part of the whatever. I mean, if I watch The Rock with Ed Harris, there's one version of this rock. I looked in the I Love New York catalog for travel. I noticed that they have the Rock Observatory in New York City. That seems to be a really key piece of information. When I look at other theories, like theory of tourism and theory of whatever else that are allowable by some divine grace, I suppose, or mercy inside a system that is trying to self-sustain and work. But I'm not really sure on the detail pieces of how the greater system works. All I know is in definable time, where time collapses in on itself and creates a moving piece. That's where I am. I'm not just in the metaverse. I'm in physical form at this time. And these series of events have happened in order to perpetuate something else, which are, I mean, goes against laws. I mean, like land laws that they use to keep peace and keep civil. But I don't know how any of that works. Or, I mean, like, again, series of rooms I was kept in, and then Nicholas never showed up. This presents a larger problem for me the older I get, realizing just how much I needed him and his inability to arrive and to keep me safe under his wing and on his arm seems to be like really like so much more crucial as of a piece of like a key piece of what went wrong. And I don't know how to get to him. I never knew how to get to him. He knew how to get to me. And I don't know how to fix this level of broken. But it is not okay to stay stuck in this level of broken by any means. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies broken. Oh, let me get that New York piece. And let me also just say there was an Air Force representative that I attended a place called SUNY, SUNY, Empire State University. I had a Caucasian retired Air Force person, Dr. Todd, and he was a wonderful professor. And we went and I did business leadership and business organization with he in this course in private education, but it's SUNY State. I then, through this SUNY program, had a professor, Francis Boyce, who was looks like an Eric Adams shade of human. And she was the career and the degree specialist. She was the one where it's career planning. I had to put a degree plan together, which totally foreign concept to me. And I needed her help, for which she was not helpful at all. And when I had to go to see her, she was so racist against me. And I'm like, walking in the room, I'm like, excuse me? I mean, like, I work at a bank. I came in my uniform. I came straight from, I was working full time, had my 3 kids, and I was trying to get my degree so I could get an increase in pay. And I walk in and she's thinking that I'm racist. And I'm like, you're going to have to back that one up because I'm really confused. And then I tell Dr. Todd about this. Like, I'm like, what do I do? I was like, I mean, she's saying something about racism and then she's like not really helpful. And I paid for this course. How do I get my money back, or can I switch? I mean, and then with Frances, I even said, I was like, is this going to be a problem? And she's like, well, it's not going to be a problem for me. And I'm like, yeah, I think it is. At this point, I mean, because I have had so many horrible things after that meeting happen. Like, how do I sue the college or the person for that level of discriminatory practice? Because I still don't have my bachelor's degree. No matter how many times I keep going back, I have more than enough credits. It's just the state of New York. Even though I have plenty of credits, they don't have a discipline in order to issue me a paper. But I've put the classroom time in and I'm qualified for a bachelor's degree by credits. They just won't make this exception and issue me the paper. So now where do I go? Because these are all these discriminatory practices that are going on against my person. And I don't even know who is safe anymore because I'm stuck with this black stiletto on his hand for the last, I don't know, I think he's now stuck with me since 2010. And I don't know how to get away. I don't. And now I've got the problem of he wants my son. And he is not a qualified parent by any stretch of the imagination. So I ordered this theorem, we'll call it a theorem, it's a publication, from New York State in the I Love New York Travel Bureau of what are they saying about New York. And in it has, I was looking for places since I know nothing about New York, to take my son. And here it says Top of the Rock Observation Deck. Without this book, I would have no idea. And it doesn't say what the top of the rock is, like what building it is. And just by looking out, I have no idea. Again, when you live here and you look like me and have an RH sensitivity, I haven't been taught anything about the surrounding areas, the governance, civics, how to participate, what's available to me. There's been none of that in communications or in actual partnership that's ever been extended to my person. I've been here for 44 years. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.